The wind cut across the plains like a blade, carrying dust, dry grass, and the distant cry of a lonely coyote. The sun was sinking low, bleeding orange and red into the wide Texas sky, when Cole Mercer spotted something strange near the old barbed wire fence that ran along the edge of his land. At first, he thought it was just a torn jacket caught on the wire, flapping in the breeze. But as he rode closer on his tired brown horse, his heart dropped into his stomach. It wasn't cloth. It was a girl. She was tied to the fence, her wrists bound with rough rope, her head hanging low, her dark hair tangled and dirty. Her dress was thin, torn at the sleeve, and her bare feet were scratched and bleeding from gravel and thorns. She looked so small against that endless land, like the world had decided to swallow her and leave nothing behind. Cole jumped off his horse before it even fully stopped, boots hitting the dirt hard as he ran to her side. "Hey, hey, sweetheart," he said softly, afraid to scare her. "You hear me?" Her head lifted just a little. Her eyes were swollen from crying, red and glassy, but still alive, still fighting. "Please," she whispered, her voice so weak it almost disappeared into the wind. "Don't leave me here." Cole's jaw tightened. He had seen cruelty before. He'd seen drunk men, mean men, men who took their anger out on anyone weaker than them. But this was different. This was a father's sin carved into a child's body. He pulled out his knife and cut through the rope carefully, supporting her as her body slumped forward into his arms. She was shaking from cold, fear, and exhaustion. "My name's Cole," he said, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. "You're safe now. I promise." She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Cole didn't hesitate. He lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing, like she was made of broken promises and pain. As he carried her to his horse, she whispered, "My dad." He was drunk again, said I was a burden, said I needed to learn a lesson. Cole felt something dark and dangerous rise in his chest, a kind of anger that made his hands tremble. "A man who does that ain't no father," he said quietly. "Not in my book." The ride back to the ranch felt longer than usual. The sky darkened, stars starting to peek through as the cold night crept in. Cole kept talking softly just so she wouldn't feel alone. She told him her name was Lily. She was 18. Her mama had died years ago. Since then, it had just been her and a bottle-loving father who blamed her for everything wrong in his life. When they reached the ranch house, Cole lit the lamps, filled the room with warm yellow light, and set Lily gently on the couch. He brought water, clean cloth, and soup he had left from earlier. He cleaned the cuts on her feet and wrists with hands that were rough from years of ranch. Work but surprisingly gentle. "You don't owe me nothing," Cole said when she tried to apologize. "You just rest. You're safe here tonight. And tomorrow, too. As long as you need." Lily looked at him like she hadn't heard those words in years. Safe. As long as you need. Tears slipped down her cheeks again, but this time, they weren't just from pain. They were from relief, from hope. That night, as the wind howled outside and the old house creaked, Cole sat in a chair by the door, shotgun nearby just in case. Not because he expected trouble, but because he refused to let the world hurt that girl again. Not on his watch. Morning came soft and golden, sunlight pouring through the dusty windows like a blessing. Lily woke up on the couch, wrapped in blankets, the smell of coffee and frying eggs filling the air. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. No shouting, no crashing bottles, no angry footsteps, just quiet, just peace. Cole stood at the stove, back turned, humming something low and slow. He looked like a man carved out of hard years, broad shoulders, worn jeans, face lined by sun and responsibility. But there was something else, too. Kindness. The kind that didn't beg for thanks. "Morning," he said, turning with a small smile. "You hungry?" She nodded, unsure how to speak around the lump in her throat. They ate at the small wooden table. Every bite felt like proof that she was still alive, that her life wasn't over, even if her past had tried to kill her spirit. "I can't go back," Lily finally said, her hands shaking around her coffee cup. "If I go back, he'll do worse next time." Cole leaned back in his chair, eyes serious. "Then you don't go back." Simple as that. "But I got nowhere else," she whispered. Cole didn't answer right away. He looked out the window at his land, miles of fence, Cattle grazing, the lonely road stretching toward nowhere. He had lived alone for years. He was used to it. Maybe too used to it. But something in his chest told him this wasn't an accident. That finding Lily tied to that fence wasn't just bad luck. It was a turning point. "You can stay here," he said finally. "Help around the ranch if you want, or don't. Point is, this is a safe place. I ain't like him. I won't ever be." Lily's eyes filled again. "Why?" Cole's voice was quiet, honest. "Because nobody saved me when I was young. And I always told myself, if I ever got the chance to save someone else, I would." Days turned into weeks. Lily grew stronger. Her laughter slowly returned. She helped in the kitchen, fed chickens, learned to ride a horse. And Cole, lonely cowboy that he was, found his house wasn't so empty anymore. The silence that once weighed on him now felt like peace instead of loneliness. But danger never stays far when cruelty is involved. One afternoon, dust rose on the road. A truck. Loud engine. Angry man. Lily froze when she recognized it. Her father. Cole stepped onto the porch, standing tall, calm, and unmovable. When the drunk man started yelling, accusing, demanding, Cole didn't flinch. "She's safe here," Cole said firmly. "You don't touch her." Ever again. First time in Lily's life, someone stood between her and her fear. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. And in that moment, Lily realized something powerful. Her life wasn't defined by the fence she was tied to. It was defined by the door that had opened for her instead. The dust from the truck hadn't even settled when Lily's knees gave out. She gripped the porch railing, her breath coming in, shallow gasps as if the past had suddenly found her and wrapped its hands around her throat. Cole didn't move an inch. He stood between her and the man who had broken her childhood, his shadow falling long across the ground like a wall that wasn't going to crumble. Her father staggered out of the truck, the sour smell of alcohol drifting ahead of him. His eyes were bloodshot, his face red with anger and shame he refused to name. "That's my girl," he slurred, pointing at Lily. "You got no right keeping her here." Cole's voice was calm, but it carried the kind of authority that didn't need shouting. "She's 18, and she ain't your property." The man laughed bitterly. "I fed her. I raised her." Lily flinched at the word raised. Cole felt it. He saw it, and something inside him hardened. "You tied her to a fence like an animal," he said quietly. "You don't get to talk about raising her." For a moment, it looked like the man might rush him. Lily's heart pounded so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. Every bad memory came crashing back. The shouting, the bottles, the nights she hid in her room praying he'd pass out before finding her. She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the blow that had always come before. But it didn't. Instead, she heard Cole step forward, heard his boots hit the porch boards. "You take one more step," he said evenly, "and you won't like how this ends." The silence stretched. Wind moved through the grass. Somewhere far off, a cow lowed. Lily opened her eyes slowly and saw something she'd never seen before. Fear, not in her, but in her father. He spat on the ground, muttered a curse, and stumbled back toward his truck. "This ain't over," he growled. Cole didn't blink. "It is for her." When the truck finally disappeared down the road, Lily collapsed onto the porch, sobbing like the weight of 18 years had just been lifted off her chest. Cole knelt beside her, not saying a word, just letting her cry. When she finally looked up, her face was streaked with tears. But her eyes were clearer than they'd ever been. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. Cole shook his head. "Yeah," he said softly. "I did." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the moonlight on the floor, waiting for fear to creep back in. It didn't come. Instead, she felt something new. Safety. Real safety. The kind she'd only ever imagined. Days passed. Then weeks. Lily started helping more around the ranch. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She learned how to fix fence wire, how to saddle a horse properly, how to cook meals that made Cole smile in quiet appreciation. Slowly, the girl who once barely spoke began to laugh. Cole noticed everything. The way she walked taller now, the way she looked people in the eye, the way her hands stopped shaking when a bottle clinked somewhere in town. And in noticing her healing, he realized something else. His own loneliness was fading too. But healing isn't loud, and sometimes it scares people who don't know how to live without pain. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Lily's hands trembled as she read it. Her father was pressing charges, accusing Cole of kidnapping, of stealing his daughter. Lies stacked on lies. Lily's chest tightened. "This is my fault," she said, her voice breaking. "I should have known he wouldn't stop." Cole folded the letter slowly. "No," he said firmly. "This ends now, and you ain't facing it alone." For the first time in her life, Lily believed that. Truly believed it. Because whatever storm was coming next, she knew one thing for certain. She would never be tied to a fence again. And she would never stand alone in the dark. The courthouse smelled like old wood, dust and judgment. Lily had never been inside a place like this before, and every step she took felt heavier than the last. The echo of boots on the floor made her flinch, memories crawling up her spine like cold fingers. Cole walked beside her, steady and calm, his presence the only thing keeping her from turning around and running back into the wide-open fields, where fear couldn't follow her so easily. Her father sat on the opposite bench, unshaven, eyes hard, jaw set like he was the wronged one. When he looked at Lily, there was no apology there, no regret, just possession, like she was something that had slipped through his fingers and embarrassed him in front of the world. Lily's hand started to shake. Cole noticed immediately. He leaned slightly closer and spoke low enough that only she could hear. "Look at me," he said. She did, and in his eyes she didn't see anger or pity. She saw belief. The kind that says you're stronger than you think, even when you don't feel it. The judge entered. The room stood. Then silence fell like a hammer. The accusations were read aloud: kidnapping, unlawful detainment, manipulation. Each word hit Lily like a slap. Her father's lawyer painted a picture of a helpless old man whose daughter had been taken by a lonely cowboy with unclear intentions. Lily felt the room tilt. People whispered. Some looked at Cole differently now. Cole didn't react. He sat still, hands folded, eyes forward. He had lived his whole life being misunderstood. This was nothing new. Then it was Lily's turn. Her legs felt like they might give out as she walked to the stand. She glanced once at her father, then away. She refused to let him own her eyes anymore. "Tell the court why you left your father's home," the judge said gently. Lily swallowed. Her voice came out small at first. "He didn't have a home," she said. "Not one that felt safe." Her father scoffed. The judge silenced him with a look. Lily took a breath, then another, and then something inside her unlocked. She spoke about the drinking, the shouting, the nights she slept with her door locked and her shoes on, just in case she had to run. She spoke about being blamed for her mother's death, about being told she was useless, unwanted, a burden. Then she told them about the fence, the rope, the cold, the fear. The moment she realized her own father had decided she deserved pain instead of protection. The room was completely silent now. Tears rolled down Lily's face, but her voice didn't break. "Cole didn't take me," she said firmly. "He saved me. He didn't ask for anything, he just stood there when no one else ever had." Her father stood up suddenly, shouting that she was lying, that she was ungrateful, that she owed him. The judge ordered him to sit down. For the first time, Lily saw it clearly. Not power, not authority. Just a broken man screaming at a world that no longer believed him. Cole was called next. He stood hat in hand, shoulders squared. "I found her tied to my fence," he said simply. "If helping a scared kid makes me guilty, then I reckon I am. But I'd do it again." The judge leaned forward. "Did you ever prevent her from leaving?" Cole shook his head. "No, sir. Only thing I ever did was make sure she had a door that locked, food to eat, and someone who'd show up if she cried." The ruling came down like quiet thunder. No kidnapping, no charges. A restraining order placed against the father. Lily was free. Outside the courthouse, sunlight felt different, warmer, realer. Lily stood on the steps, breathing like someone who had just learned how. Her father was escorted away, shouting her name one last time. She didn't turn around. Cole did. And with one look, he made it clear that chapter was closed. As they walked away, Lily felt something she had never felt before. Not just safety, but ownership of her own life. Her future no longer written by fear. She looked up at Cole, I don't know what comes next, she said. Cole smiled just a little. Neither do I, but whatever it is, you won't face it alone. And for the first time, Lily believed the road ahead wasn't something to survive. The ranch felt different after the courthouse day. The land was the same, wide, quiet, stretching forever, but something unseen had shifted. Like the earth itself had exhaled after holding its breath too long. Lily noticed it first in the mornings. She woke without fear. No racing heart. No instinct to listen for angry footsteps or breaking glass. Just birdsong, wind through the grass, and the soft clatter of Cole making coffee in the kitchen. Healing didn't come all at once. Some nights Lily still dreamed of rope and wire, of cold metal biting into her skin. But now, when she woke shaking, she wasn't alone. Cole never asked questions. He just sat nearby, quiet as the stars, letting her remember that the present was safe, even when the past tried to claw its way back. Weeks turned into months. Lily grew into herself the way plants grow after a long drought, slow at first. Then, with quiet determination, she learned to ride without fear, to mend fences without flinching, to laugh without immediately apologizing for the sound of it. She started reading again, started planning. For the first time in her life, tomorrow didn't feel like a threat. Cole watched it all from a careful distance. He never crossed lines, never tried to own what wasn't his. But in the evenings, when the sun dipped low and painted the sky gold, they'd sit on the porch together, sharing silence like it was something valuable. One evening, Lily broke that silence. "I've been thinking," she said, staring out at the pasture. "I want to finish school, maybe train to be a vet assistant. I like helping animals. They don't lie about being hurt." Cole nodded, a small smile touching his face. "Sounds like a good plan. You really think I can do it?" she asked quietly. He turned to her then, his voice steady. "I know you can." That was the thing about Cole. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words landed like truth. The restraining order held. Lily's father never came back. Over time, his shadow shrank until it was nothing more than a memory she could look at without shaking. Not gone, but no longer in control. One afternoon, as Lily repaired a fence on the same stretch of land where she'd once been tied, she stopped and looked around. The wind moved the grass gently. The fence stood strong. She touched the post, not with fear, but with something like closure. Cole watched from a distance, heart tight in his chest. He realized then that loneliness wasn't the same as being alone. He'd spent years thinking he was built for solitude, that caring was a liability. Lily had proven him wrong, not by needing him forever, but by showing him that standing up for someone could change two lives instead of one. That night, as stars spilled across the sky, Lily sat at the table filling out school paperwork. She paused, then looked up. "Cole?" "Yeah? Thank you. For not asking me to be grateful. For just letting me be." He swallowed hard. "You earned every bit of who you are." "I just kept the door open." They sat there a long time after that, not saying much. Months later, Lily left for school. Not running, not escaping, walking forward by choice. Cole watched her drive away, pride and ache mixing in his chest. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't empty. Because Lily came back on weekends, on holidays, with stories, with plans, with a life that was finally her own. And every time she pulled into the driveway, Cole stood on the porch, a lonely cowboy no longer defined by loneliness, just by the quiet strength of a man who chose to do the right thing when it mattered most. Some fences are built to keep people out. Others exist so someone can finally cut the rope. And that night, under a sky full of stars, Lily understood the truth she would carry forever. Family isn't who ties you down. It's who sets you free.